So our next stop was actually at Netiv Ha'asara. Netiv Ha'asara is the closest kibbutz actually to the Gaza border in the north. It's just above Gaza, and it's a beautiful small kibbutz in which is a flourishing, beautiful agricultural community. We got a chance to visit there with Rav Meir Barel, that's Shachar's brother, who is a Rav Kehila. He also owns a restaurant in Yerushalayim, and he also works for Unit 360, which is the Army's search and rescue operation for missing or unnatural death causes. And so he took us there, and we got to meet a very wonderful person by the name of Raz. Raz lives there and is part of the Kitet Kononut, which is the rapid response team. And he was describing his work following the whole episode of the attack. They were first attacked by hang gliders. 3 hang gliders came in with terrorists. Then when the terrorists broke through the areas crossing, that brought many more terrorists came in. And there was hand-to-hand combat within the yeshuv as the rockets were falling at the same time, and it was a pretty terrifying experience. We got to hear a little bit about some of the people there, the special people killed. We saw the place in a bomb shelter where a 75-year-old grandmother was gunned down by the terrorists. We got to learn about a person by the name of Gil, who was part of the rapid response team, who was killed in a bomb shelter by jumping on the grenade which was thrown into the bomb shelter to save his 2 children, who were taken by the terrorists and miraculously let go afterwards. It's a very famous story. We saw Gil's house. We were there where he was killed. We got to see his grave, which talks about this miraculous story as well. And we also got to hear when Raz was describing this. Raz in his regular civilian life is a tour guide, but he obviously hasn't taken any tours. His job was, after this, was clearing up, taking the bodies and burying them. He hand dug 14 of the graves in the yeshuv with loving care. We went to that graveyard with him, and he this is the first time he was speaking to a public audience. It was very hard for him, and he felt that he had a place in telling the story, because it's important to know, and that's part of our job, is hearing and continuing to tell that story as well, which is so important. When we went to the graveyard to visit, it turned out that the family of a young man by the name of Tal was there. Tal was a 17-year-old who was actually on a fishing trip that morning, where he was killed at the Zikim beach with tens of others by the incursion by sea of terrorists. And his father, Alon, who was on the rapid response team who killed the terrorists, was actually there at the same time. His grandfather and grandmother was there. It was a very moving moment where we heard a little bit about Tal, his life, his aspirations. He'd gone international surfing. That was his thing around the world. He sold flowers from the kibbutz around the world, and he was really a person full of life. He was trained to join a combat unit like his father was in. His grandfather, who was a brigadier general in the army, described how that he'd been through 4 wars in Israel, but the youth today was so much more. He felt stronger and motivated than ever before, and he was full of hope. He was full of hope even though his grandson was just there. We had the opportunity of sitting there and saying Tehillim with the family, singing with the family, and doing a Kaddish right at the grave. And one of the things we really learned from this, that it's not just names. We got to appreciate the pictures behind the people, the stories behind it. It was very moving for us as we visited this very special kibbutz.
And he said, that's Alon's father, Tal's grandfather. And he said, my father told me that it's our job, our mission, to tell this story.